Now to my right is Andy Alberth. He's the head of the National Fantasy Football Convention happening in Fort Worth in a couple of weeks. Took a few years to get it off the ground. It finally happened last year in Fair Park. How do you feel the first installment went, and why are you moving it to Fort Worth now?
I think the first one went really good. I think it was definitely good to finally get it off the ground, and pretty excited to see it grow from 50 to over 200 players and personalities this year. And I think the reason we moved it to Fort Worth was kind of want to just keep it in the Metroplex, but move it around. We may keep it in Fort Worth, we may move it to Allen, we may move it back to Dallas. I mean, it's such a big football city, we say. So we love it, and I think we'll stay here forever.
I want to talk more about the convention in just a bit, but first, you are Tony Romo's cousin. He's fresh off his first year in the broadcast booth, and in your objective, non-biased opinion, you kept telling us that Romo was going to be outstanding his first year in the booth, and by many accounts, he certainly was. What do you think makes him such a success, and why do you feel like this can be sustained for year two for him?
I think it's his attention to detail. I mean, his ability, and he just works so hard. He watches film, and he does a lot more work than people can see, and I think people can finally see how smart he was. And in a lot of those press conferences, he had to be a little bit more politically correct, having to say the right answers, otherwise they would go after him. So he's got to be able to show his personality a little bit more, and people can see how smart he is. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a coaching opportunity in his future as well.
I think the Troy Aikman parallel is certainly appropriate here, where he didn't want to tip his hand too much during press conferences when he was a player. Romo certainly felt that way the many times I spoke to him. And now that he's open and can be honest, we're certainly seeing a side of him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then you got Jason Witten now too, which is pretty exciting to see all these Cowboys together. I think he's going to keep getting better. And I mean, he loves the job. He loves going to different teams. He enjoys the conversations with Belichick and things like that. He really feels like he's still part of the game. It gives him that itch, that kind of be able to scratch still and talk to these guys and learn what the offenses and defenses are running.
You mentioned Jason Witten. He's joining Monday Night Football. 3 of the top color analyst positions among the 4 networks showing the NFL, well, they all feature Dallas Cowboys. And so why do you think that Cowboys are in high demand for broadcasting positions?
I think it's because, I mean, the Cowboys are the biggest franchise in the world by Forbes, and there's not even a soccer team or a basketball team that's even as big in the last 3 years. And it's the same reason we're keeping the convention here. It's the football capital of the world here in Dallas, Texas. I make the joke, I feel like they feed their kids muscle milk at 2 weeks out when they're babies. They're different out here. Even a lot of guys that play on other teams like Rojo, Ronald Jones, and Cortland Sutton, these guys are just, I mean, they're athletes, they're big guys, and it's amazing how many NFL players live here and grew up here.
I know many of us are going to be preparing for our fantasy football seasons. Are there any tips that you can share, certain players that maybe we need to be considering having them pretty high on our draft boards?
There's 3 guys, and they're all going to be at the convention. They're my biggest 3 sleepers, actually. I love Jared McKinnon and a Kyle Shanahan offense. I think if you're playing in a PPR, he's going to have 80, 90 catches this year. Kyle's one of the most offense-smart coaches out there. And I like Dede Westbrook from Oklahoma. Dominated the targets when he came and started playing after the injury. And then another guy is Rojo, Ronald Jones. Buccaneers got rid of Doug Martin. There's really not a running back there. He's a great career at USC, great career here in high school. I think he's going to be a stud.
I know a lot of people around here will consider drafting Ezekiel Elliott pretty high, given that he'll have, likelihood a full season to show what he can do his 3rd year in the NFL. I think because there's not that #1 receiver, that Zeke may be asked to be a receiver a good bit more than he has been the first couple of years. How do you see that impacting his fantasy value?
I think that'll help. I mean, he likes catching the ball in the backfield. I know he was trying to get creative during the season. He wants to catch the ball. He's really good coming out the backfield catching the ball, but it's going to be interesting what they do with Tavon Austin, kind of in that same hybrid position that they want to be that Lance Dunbar guy that we haven't had for a year. So
web back, whatever that means.
Yes. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Definitely, I'm excited to watch that.
What about Dak Prescott's value, given that his first year, certainly wasn't slinging it a ton, but was certainly efficient. Second year, some games were efficient, not so much. You think maybe things can kind of even out for him and he has some real fantasy value?
I do. I think so. I think they're kind of building like they used to build at Romo friendly. It's a lot more Dak friendly, and I think we have a lot of really good receivers on the team, so he could throw 25, 30 touchdowns, and he's got legs. He's going to get a lot of running yards, so that's a huge value in fantasy, and that could make him easily a top 5 fantasy pick as a quarterback this year.
National Fantasy Football Convention coming up in a couple of weeks. Give us the details.
It's going to be over 200 players and personalities. It's going to be in Fort Worth at the Will Rogers. It's exciting. It's for fans to be able to come and mingle with the players. You get free autographs and photo ops, and you're able to play Madden, and you're able to play golf and football and do all these things. And it's pretty, you're going to turn your corner, and there's Kareem Hunt, who led the NFL in rushing, and Patrick Mahone, Ezekiel Elliott, and they're literally just that close. So it's exciting. You can go to the website at gonffc.com. It's gonffc.com. You'll be able to see the schedule, kind of the roster, and some of the really cool things we got going on.
And gonffc.com is the place to get tickets for it.
Yep, that's where you go. Yep.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Andy Alberth, thank you so much for dropping by. Enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.